Former homeless people, what did you need the most? What was the best thing someone did for you? When I lost my job after the Y2K remediation, I wound up broke as a joke and no hopes of job from anywhere in Oregon at the time. Girlfriend got asked to come take over her family's failing company business in Utah, and we decided to go for it. Got here with nowhere to live, no money, 1/4 tank of gas. We lived in our cars for a while, then we found a row of 3 abandoned houses in Provo and squatted in the middle one. While she tried to rescue the family business, I got a gig delivering those stupid free newspapers that people get in their driveway. Wife's car was a long F-350, so we could deliver a ton of papers. That's what kept us fed. I was 32 and a paper route was my only income. As far as the nicest thing anyone did, one day a guy came and knocked on our door, saying he was the house owner. We said sorry and we will pack up and GTFO right now. However, the guy was nice. He said he owned all 3 of these empty houses and thanked us for keeping the crackheads out of them, and he let us stay there. He even turned the power on for us. WTF. 6 months after that I wound up getting a job at eBay, and it was onward and upward from there. So really all we needed was a chance, we got it. Hygiene. Anyone who let me take a shower and shave was an angel. Showers and a place to wash your clothes to save as much money for food to be able to get dollar menu items and feed yourself 3 times off $5 and some change. Not sure if living in the car counts as homeless though, but a 93 Accord ain't exactly a home. Clean socks and underwear and basic hygiene. The best thing a person did for me was explain to me that nobody gives a fuck about me except me and my family. That conversation went a long way to me stopping shooting up in alleys and getting a career. My wife was homeless as a teenager. On Friday afternoons, a businessman would walk up to her and ask her if she was hungry. She would say yes, and he would take her into the restaurant on the corner. She never felt any danger with him, and she has had to cut somebody badly before. He was just some dude offering her a meal. He would let her get anything in the menu. He would sit and read the paper and drink a cup of coffee. There was never any conversation. When he was finished, he would pay the bill and leave. There was never any exchange of words other than "you hungry?" and "have what you want" and "have a good afternoon." This happened multiple times. She never felt like a project to him. She never felt less than him. She never felt in danger. He was just a guy who saw a dirty girl on the street who needed to eat. She has since gotten her GED, graduated from a trade school with a fitness degree, and now has earned her MBA with honors. She is an amazing woman and an amazing mother. The one wish she has is that she can run into the businessman who bought her lunches and thank him. Gifted me an old baggy waterproof jacket with a big hood. It had many pockets too. A little large to carry around, since I was carrying a lot of other stuff too, but proved very useful. It was very rainy at that time. Employment. I wasn't addicted and wasn't mentally ill. But I had legal trouble and employers aren't going to hire someone who is probably going to jail 5 months from now. I had to work under the table for like $4 per hour. If there had been a way for me to get a decent temp job, I could have probably got a shitty apartment for the interim. I was able to secure a spot in a church basement for a little while. The nicest thing anyone did was one of the people from church brought me a Super Nintendo and a stack of games to help keep the boredom and loneliness at bay. I was homeless as a teenager and used to hitchhike around the country. This is the story of the nicest thing a stranger has ever done for me. I hope they get to see this and know I still remember them and appreciate what they did. I was hiking from Wisconsin to New Orleans. I was 15 and pregnant, although I didn't know it at the time. I was sick and throwing up and was trying to get back to New Orleans to go to the charity hospital. I was having a terrible journey. A guy had tried to grab my leg and I resisted, and he dropped me off on a toll road where no one would pick me up, so I spent several days walking until a semi-truck driver finally gave me a lift. He was a nice old man and I told him up front that I was 15 and he promised he wouldn't try to hurt me. He told me I reminded him of his niece and would give me a ride as far as he could go. I spent a few hours riding with him until we got near St. Louis, and then he pulled off the road at a rest area and asked me if I need to use the restroom. I did, and I was stupid enough to leave my backpack in his truck when I went in to use it. When I came out, he had thrown my backpack out into the parking lot and left me there, and there were bums going through my bag stealing my stuff. I was tired, hungry, and now I had just been robbed of what little possessions I had. Only a few items of clothing remained. I walked down the highway again and a short time later a car pulled over to give me a lift. The man inside was very overweight, sweaty, smelly, and was wearing just a t-shirt and dolphin shorts. The only reason I accepted the ride was because he had a CB radio in his car and I thought I could use it to call ahead for another ride. Joke was on me. Once we got down the road he told me the CB didn't work and now I was stuck in the car with this creepy guy. Luckily, he said he could only give me a lift to the other side of St. Louis. It only took a few minutes before his hand started sliding up my leg. I scooted as close to the door as I could and told him I was only 15 and didn't put out for rides, and he immediately withdrew his hand and apologized. He said he would take me a bit farther to make up for it. A few minutes later, here comes the hand again. I asked him to let me out. He apologized again and said he'd take me further. He started to pull off onto an exit. Me? Can I get out here? Guy? No, there's a place I want to show you. I look over and there's a sign for a lake up the exit, and I instantly pictured myself tied to rock at the bottom of a lake. As soon as he got to the end of the exit ramp where it meets the off-road, I opened my door, grabbed my bag, and tried to jump out. He grabbed my necklace, one of those thick choke chain kind, and shirt, and pulled me back inside and started choking me with it. I was punching him as hard as I could, and I got a good one right in his nose. He loosened his grip enough for me to pull free, and I ran across the off-road and back onto the entrance to the highway. First he yelled, "Get back here, you stupid bitch," and tried to run after me, but he was too fat and I was too far ahead, so he tried to hit me with his car. I jumped over the little rail that runs along the ditch, and I guess he didn't want to damage his car, so he kept going and got back in the highway. Now I'm absolutely terrified that he's going to turn around at the next exit and come back for me, so I'm frantically waving down cars on the highway. My neck is swelling and it's hard to breathe, my shirt is torn open, I haven't showered or eaten in 3 days, I'm crying, I'm sick, I'm a fucking mess. And just to make things worse, it starts to rain. But then, a car pulls over. A cop car. Thanks the gods, I'm saved. I don't even care if I go to jail, at least there will be food there. The officer opens the front door and tells me to get in. It was a lady in a brown uniform, not sure if she's sheriff, police, park ranger, I have no clue, I'm just happy to be getting away from that fucking psycho. I tell her the whole story while she's driving down the highway. She says she'll make sure I'm safe. She takes me to a gas station and gives me $10 to buy some sandwiches. Then she tells me it's going to get dark soon and she can't just leave an underage girl out on the highway at night, so she's going to take me somewhere where I can get some sleep. She takes me to her house and lets me take a shower, and while I was in there she washed my clothes for me. After that, she drove me to a Sonic and bought me some dinner. We went back to her house and she let me sleep on her couch. It was around 4 a.m. when she woke me up again. Now there's a man there, and my first thought is, oh shit, what have I gotten myself into now? She introduces the man as her brother, and they tell me that they don't want me hitchhiking tomorrow, so they bought me a bus ticket to New Orleans while I was asleep. They drove me to the bus station, and her brother gifted me a huge Bowie knife and said, next time someone tries to hurt you, you use this. And they sent me on my way. I've never been able to repay this woman, but I hope my story reaches her and she knows that she saved my life that day. I made it to Charity Hospital and found out I was pregnant and returned to my family to raise my daughter. Thanks lady, you were so kind that I've spent my whole life trying to pay it forward. You're awesome. Edit. Spacing. Pay taxes. People love telling you to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, but it's hard when your boots are falling apart and new boots are $50, but I can get drunk for $6. Without a phone and a mailing address you can't get a job, and the only ones who provided those were the government. Sure, churches and shelters will let you sleep on the floor and take a shower, but the next day you are still wearing filthy, ratty clothes, and no one is in a hurry to get you something to wear to an interview. People will give you a job washing dishes, but when you get arrested for sleeping on a park bench and jail is heated, and the park bench is not, guess what, I'll stay in jail instead of washing dishes. People will give you a pittance that makes you hope it will get better, but as soon as something happens you're on your own and back where you started. What got me out of being homeless? A studio apartment that cost the city a total of $1,200 until I could pay rent myself. Homeless people don't need socks or food or healthcare nearly as much as they need somewhere stable to live and eat and shower and go to the bathroom, where they don't have to worry about their meager possessions getting stolen or getting robbed or assaulted. Money lol, but really it's stability that's the hardest to come by. Nobody has faith that anybody homeless can make it out of their situation, but as a man who has been on his own since 16 with nothing but the clothes on my back, it's hard to come from nothing to stable. Just need someone to believe that you have the hustle to grind and make it out. There's a quote from Sports Night that would be good for people to read. I'm already seeing the don't give homeless people money, what if they spend it on sentiments? Isaac. Danny, every morning I leave an acre and a half of the most beautiful property in New Canaan, get on a train and come to work in a 54-story glass high-rise. In between I step over bodies to get here 20, 30, 50 of them a day. So, as I'm stepping over them I reach into my pocket and give them whatever I've got. Dan. You're not afraid they're gonna spend it on booze? Isaac. I'm hoping they're going to spend it on booze. Look, Dan, these people, most of them, it's not like they're one hot meal away from turning it around. For most of them the clock's pretty much run out. You'll be home soon enough. What's wrong with giving them a little Novocaine to get them through the night? Definitely letting me shower, giving me new sharp clippers for my toenails from constantly wearing boots and not having clippers, your nails get really long and start to become really painful, giving me bags of food for my dog, letting me bathe my dog. Fresh socks and underwear, doggy sweaters or rain jackets for my dog. Pretty much hygiene for myself, food treats and warmth for dog face. There's a guy who I see every time I am leaving my gym. He's got a shopping cart and all his possessions including a little dog. He holds a sign that says anything helps, my dog and I appreciate it. I bought a box of dog biscuits yesterday when I was getting my own cat food, and I plan to give it to him today after my workout. This thread convinced me to add a $5 to it. Even if I am a sucker BC, he's got a dog with him, that's okay. I'm homeless, currently living in a motel, have been homeless for 4 years as of this month. We need ways to clear our names so we can actually move into places. My mom got evicted from our apartment after getting laid off, and now we can't move in anywhere half decent anymore. Only motels and living with other people. Also, stability is really nice, but almost impossible to come by for more than a few months. The nicest thing was an old couple taking in me and my mom for 3 months, some really great people, and I'll always appreciate them. 15 years ago the most crucial things we needed were impossible, like a mailing address, phone number, toilet, and water. We'd keep a payphone under watch for those who'd get calls. Trying to get a job, housing, anything. The basics are hard. Now phones are cheap. But water and toilet are still real needs. Addresses are still tricky but easier as we rely on a location less and digital info more. Public transportation is still ridiculous. You have to spend a day or two convincing the system you need it free, otherwise you'll be out what little you can make in a 3 transit path. Currently homeless, okay, and my way to getting in a place. The one that struck me the most. I was sleeping in my car in the back of a parking lot about a week after I lost my place. About 6:30 a.m. security knocks on my window. Sorry, lady, I can't let you stay here, the usual. I apologized and told him I'd be out of high as hair in a few minutes. So I got up and was packing my blanket and pillow into the trunk when he came back and handed me $5, told me to go get a coffee. I pride myself on the fact that I'm working, not begging. He's the only person who has handed me money. It was one of the most touching things that has ever happened to me. I sat in my car and ugly cried for about 10 minutes, then went and got myself that coffee. The biggest thing someone did for me, however, was a complete stranger covering the cost of my storage unit for a month. I'm in there almost every day, clean clothes and all that. She does eBay or something similar. We've run into each other a couple times a week since I became homeless. She picked up on the fact that I was leaving in different clothes than I had coming in and asked about my situation. I'll admit, I was a little defensive, but honest. Stopped seeing her around after that, not sure if she moved or changed her routine or what. Come the end of the month I go into the office to pay my bill and I'm told that it's been covered. I wish I could thank her. I work in downtown and see these guys in a park every morning sleeping on the grass. Would it be weird if just brought them breakfast one day? I feel bad and have never spoken to them, but I bet they will be there tomorrow morning. Somewhere to sleep. Without sleep nothing works right. Showers and laundry facilities. Still homeless but not on the streets. What do I need the most? A job. What's the best thing someone's done for me? Paid my vet bills and dog meds. I was a street kid. From 13 to 18 I coasted around on my own. As you can imagine, it was a pretty rough ride. I don't remember an awful lot of it, but a few people stand out even now. I think the only thing they have in common is that they saw me. It's amazing how invisible you feel on the street. People steer their children away from you, avert their gaze, pretend you're invisible. It gets to you. I vividly remember this one woman. Immaculately dressed, gorgeous Eastern European woman. Around 40. I was panhandling and she walked right up to me and asked me to eat with her. We sat on a patio smoking cigarettes, snacking, drinking coffee. She asked me questions about myself like she really cared. And she listened. Didn't offer miracle solutions or pity. Just fed me lunch and listened. I remember her face 15 years later. It's why now, in my reincarnation as a soccer mom, I teach my children to always acknowledge when it's safe to do so. You don't always need to give. But a smile, or a "how are you?" goes an incredibly long way. I left an abusive relationship and, turns out, he was right. I had nowhere to go. I slept under a train and shoplifted what few basics I couldn't go without, which, frankly, I still don't regret. Fucked the Waltons and got a job at a Burger King. I mean, being homeless and all meant that my hygiene was horrible. Cut off all my hair to hide it, but there's a certain point where you can't anymore. One of my managers pulled me aside and asked me what was up. She called out, sweetly as she could, the red flags she'd seen. My self-harm scars, my hygiene, the breakdown I had when my ex came through the drive-thru, and I'm pretty sure she already knew what was up, at least somewhat. She started scheduling all of our shifts to overlap and taking me home with her, not far from my nest spot, so I could shower and eat dinner with her and her kid. Kinda just took me in as best she could. The shower was nice, so was the food. But the experience of someone giving a shit was what helped, quite honestly. Be kind. Official identification. All the homeless people I speak to have a hard time getting a state ID. Obligatory, not formerly homeless, but my buddy was. And from our experience I would say a place to stay, shower, wash clothes, and some structure. I took him in for as long as he needed rent-free under the condition that he gets through school and gets a job. Now he is a drafter designer, has his own place and a nice car. I'm so proud of him and glad that I opened my door to him when everyone else had shut him out. Someone willing to take a chance. When you're homeless and people find out, it usually results in a negative change in their perception of you. Particularly in the perceptions held by those who could potentially be employers and landlords. That's if you choose to disclose the information. Easy to do with employment if you're capable of staying physically clean, i.e. regular showers and trips to a laundromat. Not so easy to do with a potential landlord, as you have to disclose your rental history. When you tell people you're homeless, you're bound to get people who will treat you with disdain. People who assume you're homeless because of some vice like drugs, alcohol, gambling, etc. There are many reasons for why someone is homeless that have nothing to do with how responsible you may or may not be. Such as natural disasters, fires, floods, illness or injury, and escaping dangerous situations like domestic violence. I'm not homeless because I'm irresponsible or addicted to some substance, illegal or otherwise. I'm homeless because life threw a wrench at my head and then started beating me with it while I was down. I had a clean rental history, no evictions or anything of the like, and I worked 40 to 60 hours a week to afford my bills. Which took priority over everything. I could afford rent. But nobody believed I would pay it. Just because I was homeless. A place to sleep and shower. You'd be amazed how much you'd value a good night's sleep on a couch or a bed than in the morning having a shower. A close second to those was actually someone taking my situation seriously and helped me through it. My situation was an odd one. I was considered too unstable mentally to hold down a job, yet I still had to work because while I was considered by doctors and mental health professionals to be unstable. By my country's fucked up sense of what poverty is isn't, I couldn't claim any benefits. It didn't help that the one benefit I was entitled to was withheld from me by a vindictive housing officer, and my abusive mother would steal most my money I got. I can only speak about my homeless experience, but I had a point where I was at the lowest point, and it took 2 suicide attempts to actually get any help for my issue. For me it was socks. Shoes too. But the simplest thing of socks made me feel better about myself. When it was cold I could pull out a pair or 4 to use on my feet or hands. Not the homeless man, but this is what a homeless man said to me. I had gone to a cafe and gotten myself a donut and frappuccino. I enjoyed the frappuccino and was left too full for the donut. When I walked out the cafe, there was this homeless man begging. I have him the donut and told him to enjoy it. He said, "This is the nicest thing someone did for me this week." Please remember, homeless people are people first and foremost. Talk to them every now and then. Listen to them, share your time, share some food with them. They deserve love just as much as everyone else. My husband was homeless when I first got together with him. We had been friends for a couple years before anything happened. I was in another relationship at the time, so it started out as helping him with food, place to shower or sleep when I could. But then it turned into more, and I left the person I was with, moved into a teeny tiny shitty one-room apartment with him. Now almost 4 years later we have a 1-year-old son, and it was the best decision I ever made. All in all, my husband says he really just needed love and support while he was in his darkest time. He stopped doing drugs and really turned his life around. It took a lot of hard work, but he did it. He tries to credit me constantly, but it was all him. Aged out of foster care, nowhere to go but a squat house. I was what Utah folks called a planter box kid, spent a year doing any job and every job I possibly could to get out of it. Then I joined the army, spent 4 years as a soldier, and failed a marriage, which meant when I got a medical discharge after my deployment I was homeless again. Spent a little while in a veteran group home, but they only give you 90 days to get a place and get out. My disability pay wasn't enough for rent, but I went to a day labor and stood with the Mexicans at Home Depot for odd jobs. Finally my best friend offered me to move back home to Texas or work as a ranch hand for her dad, so I moved back to Texas. She became a huge advocate for me with the VI, and now I run a ranch. I'm off all my pain psychoactive drugs and haven't been drunk in 3 years. Oh, and now my best friend is my wife. We have 4 kids. Tampons. People who let us wash clothes or shower at their place. A gym membership for the showers and such. This is getting a lot more attention than I thought it would. If a specific organization has helped you or you know of one that provides substantial help, it'd be great to list it so that people know a good place to donate or volunteer. So the reality of being homeless is a couple of variations. You live in a shelter. Shelters are run like jails, you have in and out times, everything is running on their schedule, lots of rules and very few freedoms, but more than an actual jail. It's an insane asylum, a hustler's market, an old folks' home, and finally a place for the few to get back on their feet. Yes, you can get fed and find a way out, but the stress for someone not used to this is insane high. Pay trying to scam you at every moment, unsanitary, ultra-cold sleeping environment with no warm bedding, aggressive staff. All the while you are on edge not to piss someone off because you don't want to lose your bed. And the list goes on. Option 2, buy a sleeping bag and live outside, bugs and weather, and how do you spend your off time? Number 3, friends. Not many people have tolerance to help others, actually they don't have ability to help others. Not even family. We are too self-involved as a society. The reason homeless people exist is for a few reasons. Nobody cares, people take advantage of others' good nature, and it's expensive to be homeless. Option 4 is to buy a hotel every night. Buy food at a gas station, $5 for a sandwich. Think about everything you do every day, that all has a cost, and when you can't get a footing, it's like living in quicksand. Yes, free food exists, services exist, but it's a nightmare to access most times. Spend 3 hours in line for food stamps for them to tell you that you don't have the proper paperwork. Oh no, birth certificate, sorry, can't help you. Want a birth certificate? That will be $65 in 3 weeks. The bureaucracy involved is insane. Edit. To answer the question, I need people to stop being so deceptive and predatory on both sides. The bureaucracy needs to be more streamlined if not eliminated. Any questions, Arma? I was homeless for about 2 years when I was younger. I had a car, a Nissan Sentra, had like 250k miles on it, no insurance, no registration, had my plate, but everything lapsed. A ranger at a local park campground, where you could camp out for 18 bucks a night, as long as you were in place by 8 p.m. Well, he let me just park there knowing I had no tent or camping equipment, and I slept in the backseat. I worked 12 hours a day at a gas station pumping gas. One time he brought me half a pie he had bought. The worst thing was every other homeless person. I'll let you in on a secret, most homeless people are homeless by choice. They are violent, mostly drug abusers and sociopaths, who would kill you for a cigarette. Those people are high shelters or worse than prisons. In prison, you can see it coming, you know everyone is a criminal, but not in a shelter. Someone will act like they're a friend 1 second, then try to get you to go out back with 3 of their friends for a discussion. Aka rape. Worse were some of the groups of homeless kids, the runaways etc. They'll befriend you as long as you have cigarettes or drugs, and then at 2 a.m., gang up on you, beat the fuck out of you, and take everything you got. They don't give a shit. I saw a heartbreaking style interview with a kid on a local TV station not long after I got into an apartment, and this kid was all, "I've been on the streets since I was 13. Blah blah. No one helps me. I knew from others and seeing him that he was a violent mental case who had beat a pregnant girl until she lost the kid." That's the side of homelessness no one wants you to know. Or the couple who will trade the woman for drugs, then try to cut you for the rest. Shit ain't right out there, folks, and you found some homeless people living in a woods or something, stay the fuck away. I was homeless at 14 in New York City. The thing I needed most was to be able to see the finish line, to know when this would come to an end. The feeling was like being put in prison without committing a crime and not being told your release date, so you couldn't even count the days. A desolation so dark that it all but drained the life from me. I'm 60 years old now and that feeling still comes back to me. At times I feel like I'm still on the street.